Krishna, dear devotees, welcome back once again. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastrita Deshatarine. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we will be concluding our series on Lord Chaitanya's journey to Vrindavan. This will be part 7, and again, the final class in the series. In this part, we will focus on Lord Chaitanya's mood when he was in Vrindavan. Just why Lord Chaitanya was so eager to visit Vrindavan as part of his pastimes 500 years ago is very evident in Srila Jiva Goswami's own appreciation of Vrindavan, as we find in his Gopal Champu, Part 1, Chapter 1, text number 6. It's a long text, but it's very deep and very relishable. Therein he writes, "There exists a place called Vrindavan. It brings great auspiciousness to the earth goddess. This forest has the power to deliver all living beings throughout the 3 worlds. The mere touch of its purifying breeze washes away all troubles. That touch opens the bolt on the door in the prison of the 3 Vargas: economic development, sense gratification, and material piety. And it carries away the fragrance of impersonal liberation. Its glories untie the bonds of impersonal liberation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not easily give the gift of devotional service, but in the land of Vrindavan, he easily gives it freely and easily at all times. In his heart, the demigod Brahma yearned to attain even a low birth in Vrindavan. Brahma worshipped Vrindavan. He thought his contact with Vrindavan was the beginning of his own glorious good fortune. The ways of Vrindavan are very mysterious. They are like the poetic ornament Viroda ala Tikara, where what seems a contradiction is resolved in the end. Even if authors lack poetic skill, their poems about Vrindavan are simply glorious. This is because in those poems is an awareness of what is truly important and glorious. To help the people of this world, blissful Lord Krishna, the son of Nanda, descends again and again into the realm of Vrindavan. In this way, a great festival of bliss always fills Shri Vrindavan Dham." Thank you, Srila Jiva Goswami, for your perfect insight. Now, as members of ISKCON, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya and our previous acharyas, we also want to attain eternal Vrindavan, even though we know the qualifications for doing so are very, very high. But try we must, because maybe, just maybe, we'll make it. The other day I was reading 10th Canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 38, verse 5. This is Akura speaking in this same mood. "Maivam mama dhamasyapi shad eva chuta dharshanam hriyamana kala dhatya kvachit tadati kashtana." Even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord. For one of the conditioned souls, being swept along in the river of time, may sometimes reach the shore. Wow. Let me repeat that again. Even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord. For one of the conditioned souls, being swept along in the river of time, may sometimes reach the shore. So by Srila Prabhupada's grace, we can cross over this ocean of material existence and safely reach the shore of Vaikuntha. What's more, the topmost goal, Goloka Vrindavan Dham. Hare Krishna. So we know from Shastra that for the most part, during his stay in Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya would sleep each night at Akura Ghat. And in the morning, he would walk to Imlital, a very famous sacred place, Imlital, where he would chant japa for several hours under a special tamarind tree. And then he would wander to the various forests of Vrindavan for his pastimes, as we've been discussing in previous lectures in this series. Imlital, translated in English, is tamarind tree. And Imlital is actually the place where Srimati Radharani disappeared from the Sarat Purnima rasa dance. There's different rasa dances at different times of the year in different places. But Imlital is the place where Srimati Radharani disappeared from the Sarat Purnima rasa dance, leaving Krishna, searching for her with intense feelings of separation. In short, you could say Imlital is the place which embodies the intense love and separation between Radha and Krishna. Now, worship of the original tamarind tree, Imlital, was actually started by the pujaris from the nearby Radha Madan Mohan temple during the time of Lord Caitanya. But I was reading when Aurangzeb, the tyrant, Aurangzeb, attacked Vrindavan in the 1700s. As we know, Madan Mohan was taken to Jaipur and then to Karoli. And as a result, the worship of Imlital was neglected. But in the 1930s, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had his followers purchase the land around Imlital. And you can even see today, they built a very beautiful Gaudiya Math temple there. And I was reading that our Srila Prabhupada would often visit Imlital. And I also remember that in the 1970s, Srila Prabhupada's illustrious godmother, the famous Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he would come to Imlital every Ekadasi around the time of sunset, and he would sit under that Imlital, under that tamarind tree, and chant japa until sunrise. Just something we remember from the 70s. Now that tree passed away some years ago, so a new tamarind tree was planted in the remains of the original tree trunk. And actually it's fairly unusual to see tamarind trees in Vrindavan. Why? Because Radharani cursed them. Why would Radharani curse the tamarind trees? Because, very simply, one time Krishna hid behind a tamarind tree after leaving the rasa dance. It's another Leela. He leaves. And he hid behind a tamarind tree after the rasa dance, or during the rasa dance, and Radharani couldn't find him. So she cursed the tamarind trees. So you don't find too many tamarind trees in Vrindavan. But an annual event is held at Imlital. I think it's on the full moon day of Kartik, to commemorate Lord Chaitanya's arrival in Vrindavan and this daily visit to Imlital. Very important place. And during that particular festival, a picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is brought there in a big procession from a nearby temple. And they have kirtan, katha, a big feast. So, big festival at Imlital. So again, Imlital is where Sri Radha left one of the rasa dances 5,000 years ago. And I think it would be good to discuss that pastime, that particular pastime, because it's intimately connected also to Lord Chaitanya and his mood during his pastimes on this planet 500 years ago. But as you'll see, it's connected. So one moonlit night, while that rasa dance was, you could say, in full swing in that area, it's actually Sevakunj, Srimati Radharani felt neglected. It seemed to her that Krishna was giving too much attention to some other gopis. So feeling slighted, she just disappeared from the rasa dance. And it's written that almost at once, Krishna noticed that she had gone. So he too quickly left the rasa dance, and he walked through the moonlit forest, searching for her, but to no avail. And not knowing what else to do, Krishna came back and sat underneath that Imlital, that large tamarind tree, and he just lamented her departure and their separation. Now, Sri Radha's sudden disappearance created actually intense feelings of separation in Krishna's heart. And these feelings of separation became, how would you say, too much for him to bear. And at one point it caused him to fall to the ground, repeatedly calling out Sri Radha's name. It's written that he was chanting, Radha, Radha, Radha. It's also written that this inspired the animals around him to chant Radha's name as well. And soon all of Vrindavan resounded with the sound of Srimati Radharani's divine names. And when Sri Radha herself heard these calls, she was some distance away, and she started moving towards Imlital. Then something really amazing happened. The Acharyas say that this constant chanting of Radharani's names awakened within Krishna the sense of being Radha, Radha Bhav. Repeating Radha's names with great yearning actually transformed Krishna's sense of identity from one of being the prince of Braj to that of being its princess. In short, he thought he was Radha because he was chanting Radha, 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 Radha. So the effect of those holy names made him think that he was Radha. Now, along with this new sense of identity, it's quite deep, came Srimati Radharani's beautiful golden complexion, meaning that Krishna's body, which is normally cloud blue, actually became the color of molten gold. What's more, by identifying himself with Radha, Krishna now felt separated from Krishna instead of from Radha, as he usually feels. He was in the mood of Radha, so he's feeling very separated from Krishna. So in this state, where Krishna's in the mood of Radha, hankering for Krishna, Krishna spoke to some gopis who he imagined to be nearby. He said, "My dear friends, please listen to me. What shall I do? Where shall I go? Where can I go to find Krishna? Please tell me how to find him." So just at that moment, Radharani, who had been coming, remember, to Imlital, and her close friends arrived. And they were startled by what they saw. Vishaka said to Lalita, "Who's that?" And Lalita replied, "Well, it looks like Krishna," although Krishna was golden. So Radha said, "It is Krishna." So Sri Radha's friends, completely amazed, just stared at this unusual golden-colored Krishna, who was expressing a presence and a mood exactly like Srimati Radharani. However, it's described that Radharani's actual presence, because she came there, her actual presence quickly wielded its own divine influence on Krishna, subduing his feelings of being Radha, and slowly started bringing him back to an awareness of his real identity as Krishna. But as it was a slow transformation back to being Krishna, that golden color kind of remained there on Krishna, causing Sri Radha to say, "Krishna, why are you sitting here, and how have you acquired this new color like mine?" So Krishna thought for a moment, and then he said, "Oh, my dear Radha, when you disappeared from the rasa dance, I was so distraught at having offended you that I wandered around Vrindavan. Unable to find you anywhere, I came here. Thinking of you and calling out your divine name made me feel as if I were you. And so your mood has become mine, and your golden bodily complexion has now covered my usual cloud blue luster." So then Sri Radha stepped forward to have a closer look at Krishna's golden form. And she said, "Krishna, I've never seen you like this before. is there some special significance behind this form? And as Krishna's complexion gradually regained its usual cloud blue luster, he actually told Sri Radha how in Kali Yuga he would appear as the Yuga avatar Shri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu to start a global movement of Nama Sankirtan. And he said that at that time, whoever chanted his names with faith would be blessed with the Brajavasis' special feelings of love and separation, the highest goal, which is the only means by which to meet him face to face, he said. Now, hearing this amazing prediction, Sri Radha, who herself is compassion personified, threw her arms around Krishna, crying out, "You are so wonderful, you are so wonderful, you are so wonderful." And it's written that when Lalita Devi, who was nearby, saw the divine couple embrace, it appeared to her that sometimes they were two separate forms, Radha and Krishna, and sometimes they appeared as one united form, as Shri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This is all written in Shastra. Of course, this is quite an amazing pastime, and many devotees may not have heard it before and wonder where in our scriptures is it described that Srimati Radharani had information that Krishna would appear in Kali Yuga as Lord Chaitanya. So we have to back this up with scriptural reference. As we said many times, when Prabhupada said, when speaking in spiritual circles, you always have to back up what you're saying with some Shastric reference to make it authorized. So where is the Shastric reference that Srimati Radharani had information that Krishna would appear in Kali Yuga as Lord Chaitanya? Of course, in this pastime we hear that, but where else is it mentioned? Well, there is a scriptural reference. Seek and ye shall find. And where is that? Our beloved Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in his book, Sri Stavamrita Lahari, in a passage called Swapna Vilas Amrita, which translates as the nectarian pastime dream. Therein he writes about a dream that Sri Radha had one evening when she fell asleep in a Vrindavan forest called Nidhivan. Nidhivan. Now therein, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that when Sri Radha awoke, she told Krishna about the dream. A dream that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says had both enchanted her heart but left her bewildered at the same time. So waking up, she said to Krishna, "Krishna, I just had the most unusual dream. A golden complexioned Brahmana was dancing and singing in the midst of a multitude of people along the bank of a river. Sometimes he called out, 'O Krishna,' and sometimes he sighed, 'O Radha, where are you?' Sometimes he fell to the ground, sometimes he acted wildly, losing all composure, and sometimes he danced ecstatically with all his loving associates. He has made all the residents of this world, from the blades of grass up to Lord Brahma, loudly call out the name of Krishna. I saw that. I felt drawn to him. And because he sometimes cried out, 'O Radha,' I thought he could only be you. But the next moment, he started to call out, 'O Krishna,' just as I call out for you. I was forced to wonder if this effulgent Brahmana could somehow be me. Now I'm confused. If that Brahmana was you, then where was I? And if he was me, then where were you?" So Krishna, at that point, he took Radha's hand and he started to tease her. O Kutukini. Kutukini means, it translates as the curious one. O Kutukini. In the past, You have seen so many of my incarnations, Narayana, Varaha, Nrsimha, without being confused. It's puzzling that you can't identify this Brahmana. Then something amazing happened again. Krishna touched the Kaustubha jewel on his chest. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes in text 5, and I quote him here, "At that moment, the Kaustubha gem, knowing the meaning behind all of this, began to shine. As soon as it did, all the details of the dream were completely revealed." And Radharani realized that the Brahman in her dream was actually Krishna and her as well. Vishwanath quotes Radharani in text number 6, she's speaking. "My dear beloved Krishna, I now know what is in your heart that makes you smile. You are he, and I am also he." In other words, Vishwanath writes that her realization was that they had become one person in the personality of Sri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the golden avatar, who would appear one day in Kali Yuga and flood the world with the nectar of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, we hear Kavi Karnapur say the same thing in one book that he wrote, Chaitanya Chariti Mahakavyam. It's the first chapter, it's actually the first verse in the chapter. He writes, "Krishna is the personification of condensed Sat, eternality, Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, bliss. Previously, in the land of Sri Vrindavan, he danced along with golden-hued damsels of Braja." He danced along with golden-hued damsels of Braja. Now, did it so happen that due to tightly embracing these Gauranga, golden-hued gopis, he himself turned into Gauranga and is now ever victorious in the land of Navadvip? He writes like that. So our Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur goes on to say just how Sri Radha concluded that the golden-colored Brahmana was Krishna. It's very interesting. He writes, because Sri Radha remembered Gargamuni's statement at Krishna's name-giving ceremony, that baby Krishna would appear one day as an incarnation who has a yellowish golden complexion. Vishwanath writes that Radharani is speaking to Krishna. In the king of Braja's presence, the learned Vedic scholar Gargacharya said that you will appear with a yellowish complexion. He did not lie. This dream of mine that I've just had is true. It's not an illusion. In this dream, I have directly seen you. Hare Krishna. There's actually a popular song in both Hindi and Bengali. I've heard it sung a number of times. It's called Sundara Bala Sachi Dulala. And it goes like this. To experience the utmost intimacy, Radha and Krishna united in one form within a grove of Nidhivan and played the flute. Adopting that form and mood, the Lord of Vishwarup has appeared in Nadia, as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So at this point, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur concludes in text 9 of Swapna Vilas Amrita, this dream pastime. He writes, if the bumblebee of the reader's mind drinks the nectar of this Swapna Vilasamrita, this dream that Radha had, then that intelligent reader will quickly awaken from the dream of materialistic doubt. Such a reader will attain Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He will sport in the ocean of pure love, and he will attain the peerless mercy of the King of Braj. Hare Krishna. Such a sweet and very profound pastime. And if we think about it, all of us too have experienced the blessings of the Yuga Avatar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's mentioned that previously, as we were reading, that By the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can understand who is Radha and Krishna, one can attain great heights, wonderful destinations. So we too, all of us, ISKCON devotees, have practical experience of the changes in our lives, having come in contact with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his representative, Srila Prabhupada, and his followers. It's all a great miracle, actually. We're part of the miracle of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati writes in his Viveka Satakam, 100 verses of wisdom, in chapter 1. It's text number 3, one of my favorite. Just showing how, the miracles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He writes, when the moon-like Lord Gauranga appeared in Godadesh, glass became gold. Gold became a philosopher's stone. Vaidurya gems produced similar matchless jewels. Crows became like Garuda. Crooked, ugly trees became sandalwood trees. And barren trees became wish-fulfilling trees. Is this not all wonderful? And I might add, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's also wonderful that the hippies became happies, as Prabhupada summarized one time. Because in the beginning it was the hippies who came. Very degraded condition. But the great miracle is they became wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So this concludes our series on Lord Chaitanya's journey from Jagannath Puri to Sri Vrindavan Dham. It's been a wonderful journey. Of course, so much more could be said. So much more could be said. Actually, we didn't cover every single place that Mahaprabhu visited along the way or in Vrindavan, but as much as I could research in this limited time, we discovered and we discussed also Mahaprabhu's mood, particularly today. So please carry that with you in your hearts. And by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada and his representatives, we can continue our journey back home, back to Godhead, to Sri Goloka Vrindavan Dham. I think in our next lecture we'll go back to the series of the seasons in Vrindavan. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtan Yajna ki, Captain of the ship Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi. Jai Jai Sisi Radhe,